you in it on the show that then it was me and Sarah and Alan were talking about it, but we know that Toulouse, we knew at the time Toulouse had put themselves forward.
Yeah.
York had made a strong indication, and now it's clear that they've put themselves forward. Halifax and Bradford have kind of come a little bit out of the blue on putting themselves forward, I feel. And we know Featherstone kind of slagged everyone off whilst saying that they wanted the spot, so I'm not sure if they put themselves forward or not. But we know Dexy said months ago something, but he'll say something again in 2 months, and he might catch up with the news. But the 4 definites of who've applied: Toulouse, York, Bradford, and Halifax. We suspect that Featherstone, Leigh, and London will want to have a say in that as well. We know that Newcastle aren't looking to jump from League One into the Super League. They've said that they want to actually replace whoever gets promoted into Super League by getting promoted into the Championship. That is a part of the messiness of this that no one's discussed yet.
There was a rumour that Rochdale could be considering a bid, which is again, I mean, it's like Rochdale and Bradford I almost put in the same category of you need to get your financial houses in order in the divisions you're in before you look about going up.
Club.
Exactly.
But yeah,
they've had lots of financial difficulties in recent times, and I don't think they're necessarily secure in how they are currently. So I mean, they are, since the new ownership, they are a lot more secure than they were. But it's kind of shore up where you are, chaps, before you start looking upwards.
Well, nothing has changed my preference from last week. I mean, my first preference, in reality, would have been that Toronto managed to attract an owner who could have put together an actual real bid rather than playing games. But that was always compromised by a clear dislike for the idea of Toronto from Robert Elston and a number of Super League clubs around that. So my preference, as I expressed last week, is Toulouse, and that remains the case. I've yet to see anything that would make me think differently on that.
There is a certain kind of justice to London getting the place on the basis that were Toronto not to have come up in the first place, they would have kept that spot. That effectively it's their spot that they lost to Toronto.
Yeah.
So there's a certain kind of justice to that you can't really argue with. Also, from a strategic point of view, if we are thinking strategically, which you never quite know what we're doing day to day, then having that London team is a good, especially with the Sky deal, given the data that shows us that a number of eyes on Super League in Sky terms is still the biggest region is still London and the South East.
Yeah, I do wonder with London though, do Sky actually see the benefit, and do the Rugby League and the Super League see the benefit of it when they're playing what is a great size facility for them, for what the club is at the Trailfinders? It's not a great television venue with small crowds, and you never really see a big push to those crowds no matter who's visiting the Trailfinders. So and what we've seen with London is the community development around London, the Rugby League structure below the Broncos around London hasn't fallen apart by the Broncos being in the Championship for the majority of the last 7 years certainly. So I actually don't think London need to be put in strategically. I want them to earn that place again on the field if they can do, and I agree with your level of logic, but Featherstone could make a similar argument because they lost to Toronto in the promotion decider last year, so other clubs can make kind of similar claims there.
Yeah, I think there's merits to almost every bid that has come in so far.
I think the one that I question the most is Halifax, because I feel that they've been on a spending reduction over the last few years, and they had that great Challenge Cup run last year, and 3 years ago they had the Super 8, or 4 years ago, whatever it was. But it does feel like they've been on a trajectory where they've knocked back a few pegs in the pecking order.
And I think they were happy to do that. And I think they made it clear that they were happy as a top part-time club, but that's as far as they wanted. Oh, we've got some breaking news.
Okay.
Just been tweeted by Gareth Walker. Salford announced that Ian Watson has parted company with the club with immediate effect after being approached by another Betfred Super League club.
Well, I would suspect then that Adrian Lamb isn't signing a new contract with Wigan.
Yeah.
That's all that can make you think, isn't it? Or maybe Christian Wolf's done at St Helens after 1 year.
Well, given that he publicly rebuffed Hull FC, unless there's been a U-turn in terms of Hull, and I don't know how much really of a step up that necessarily is for him. I think, the only real 2 jobs in town is one of those 2.
Yes. It's very strange. So there's suggestion that Huddersfield are the club that is believed to be that he's going to. So if we take a step back from those wild speculations we just threw out, as this is developing even more. The club is believed to be Huddersfield Giants. Gary Carter is tweeting, and he's close to Salford, the Salford club, and we'll have a good connection there, I would suspect. So
here we've actually got the statement from Salford here. If it sounds like we're making it up on the fly, it is because I've literally just seen a tweet. Club statement: Ian Watson. Ian Watson has parted company with the Salford Red Devils with immediate effect after being approached by another Betfred Super League club. Watson has been at the AJBL since 2014 when he joined as an assistant coach from Swinton Lions. The club was surprised and disappointed by Watson's decision yesterday following his previous statements of intent for the coming season, but understand his desire to continue his development through the experience of a new environment. Watson was contracted at the club to the end of the 2022 season after agreeing an extension in February, and compensation has now been agreed between all parties. Everyone at Salford Red Devils would like to thank Watson for his contribution to the club throughout his tenure and wish him all the best in his new role. The club have now started a recruitment process for a new head coach.
Yeah, wow. So being that it looks like it is Huddersfield, which is the most sensible option because they have a vacancy. The reason why he didn't go to Hull to me seemed to be family reasons. Now Huddersfield is 45 minutes on a clear run, if you're avoiding the worst of the traffic from Salford.
Yeah.
Whereas Hull's 2.5 hours. So he would have to relocate to go to Hull, is what I'm saying. He won't have to relocate necessarily to go to Huddersfield. So. Yeah. I do feel bad definitely feel bad for the Salford fans. It's quite funny. It's quite funny on Hull FC fans. No, I'm joking.
Maybe Ian Watson is in fact just a lover of cowbell.
Well, 2 weeks ago they would have been believing, from what he'd said, that he was there next year.
Well, there was that crucial bit where he did say, for the moment.
Yes, yeah. So,
just didn't expect the moment to be quite as short as it's ended up.
No, it definitely is a good hire for Huddersfield. That has to be said.
Oh, they've done very well. Whatever money they've paid for him is going to be worth it.
Assuming
Hopefully
it is Huddersfield, obviously, from the report.
Assuming it is Huddersfield, and I think given where it's come from, we're fairly safe that it probably is. Well, I don't believe everything you read on Twitter, folks. But assuming it is Huddersfield, they have done well, and whatever money they've spent is worthwhile. Given that they are looking for someone who is going to be a dynasty coach there, because they've had lots of 2.5 years and out jobs, he is someone they can build around. Whether they've got the money, the time, and the patience and the will to do that is another question. And he's got some, there's some building blocks to work with there. But he does have as he's proved at Salford, he does have an eye for a rough diamond. If you can add some of those to that Huddersfield squad and organise them, they could well be at the higher reaches quite quickly.
He has the benefit of a youth structure at Huddersfield that's producing at the moment as well, doesn't he? So he won't be scratching just to have 17 names some weeks as much at Huddersfield. You would think. So yeah, wow.
There we go. That's news we weren't expecting.
No. So the Rugby Football League are hoping for the Championship and League One to return to action by March 20. That eats into our talking more about Toronto time, Tim.
Yeah.
To return to action by March 2021. The RFL hopes to resume fixtures even if spectators are not permitted, but it is hoped that Easter weekend from 2nd to the 5th of April could see fans allowed to watch local derby matches. An RFL statement said the clubs met virtually today and debated a number of possible fixture schedules for 2021, all of which involve some matches in March. That is likely to involve the return of the AB Sundex 1895 Cup, possibly on a group basis in the early stages to allow the clubs to guarantee more home fixtures and provide the realistic prospect of reaching a Wembley final next July.
If Lee by some miracle ended up in Super League, will he still call it the AB Sundex 1895 Cup?
Well, I suppose he's tied into a deal for however long he's tied into that deal for.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's really good. It's someone that's really known for honouring contracts.
It's good to be. It's good to be planning and. For next season, because we're getting way too late in the day now with these clubs needing to sell season tickets to have any sort of revenue once furlough ends. But furlough being extended to next March really does help. Obviously, get these guys through the winter and through to the pre-season. But we'll see. But it's good that they're planning. Yeah,
I mean, there was a story in the League Express yesterday about possibility of having League One and Championship as one big competition, split East and West into two conferences that would then play off at the end of the season.
Yeah, 24 teams. I think. Is it going to be 24 teams at that? I think it would be, wouldn't it? 24 teams. I think you go. Personally, 4 conferences or 4 divisions, maybe within 2 conferences. But so then there's a different way to organise it. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge. I love conferences as an idea. I think it's an idea that we can really work with in our sport.
I'm a fan of having different, from a personal perspective, from Coventry point of view. I'm a fan of having some different sides to play against. Things that might be a bit more marketable just by spicing it up. Things you can build events around a bit more. Having different fan bases potentially to interact with, whether in the stadium or not. But having something a bit different for me is worth trying. And if we go back to as we were a year later, then we go back to as we were. Possibly not with whatever ends up else happening in relation to TV deals, and who's left in existence, sadly. But I think it's worth a go, and when I saw that proposal, it excited me.
Yeah, I think it shows that they're trying to think of some different things to get the clubs through and make things a bit more exciting and stuff like that as well. So it might be a nice way to package it up to sell on as well to regional broadcasters or smaller broadcasting companies who are the only people who are going to be interested potentially in Championship and League One rights anyway. Tom Andrews got his news view in already on the Salford parting company with Ian Watson.
He did. I've got that in front of me.
He'd rather listen to 10 people bang a cowbell than 1,000 booing and getting sacked on the telly.
There we go. I mean, who doesn't love cowbell? The answer, anyone who's ever had to be in a stadium with him.
I don't mind. It gives a nice echo. It's just former Widnes forward Simon Finnegan has left his role at Newcastle Thunder to become head coach of the Vikings. Finnegan, 38, has signed a 2-year deal with his old club and succeeds former Australia coach Tim Sheens, who resigned a month ago. Finnegan, an Ireland international, had 2 spells as a player with Widnes, spent the last 2 seasons as head coach of Newcastle and then led